Good morning.
Hey, sorry about the confusion.
Uh, that's um, I am just learning the different time zones here.
Uh, yeah, I obviously need to learn them too. It's just automatic for me to say Central Time. I don't even think about, and I don't know why. I've been here for 5 years and I just haven't updated myself.
I believe most use that ET time zone when they want to communicate time. Yes.
Well, a lot of people are, I think it's most common to communicate the one you're in. And then because a lot of people are in Eastern time, that's where the bulk of the population is, then you see that a lot. But there's no rule. Hey,
Hi, hello everyone.
Hey, Raidu.
Hi.
hey, Kartik. Did you
Yeah.
slay the dragon?
It's all a haze. I have no idea what happened.
Kartik had a job interview yesterday. Semi, what we call semi-finalist, like they do a bunch of uh video, like 30-minute video, and then they tell you if you're selected later.
Kartik, any suggestion for novice? Like, just
No, I'm so terrible at these two because usually they give you a set of questions and you have to prepare answers for them. And I
Hey,
think at
Sean.
some
Hey,
Yes,
morning.
anyway. Yeah, and I think at some point I decided no matter what the questions are, the answers are going to be the same. So I'm just gonna tell you everything I want to tell you, and then you decide if you want to hire me or not. So yeah, but yeah, if you go down that road, definitely I'll share more like precise details as what the questions are and all of that. And of course, I mean Tammy's been helping me too. So
I Yeah, um, I I don't know. I can tell you from the other side that you're probably sitting through 10 or 12 30-minute interviews. So the ones that are really good and the ones that are really bad stand out, right? Like I've had some semifinalists or the video interviews where it's like, oh no, no, not that person. Um, but yeah, I think it's just a hard process.
yeah, at least in the few I've had, there is no trend at all. So in some places where I thought I did really well, I never heard back. And in
Mm.
some cases where I thought, okay, I did whatever I did, then I heard back. So yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of times it's about the fit too, and fit is a bunch of different things, like what would they teach? Is somebody here already doing that kind of work? Which, Kartik, you're really different from a lot of people. So I think you don't have the overlap question, but it's more like in your case, it would probably be people who are really traditional are going to say that what you're doing now is not engineering, right?
Yeah, they don't know better, but that's okay.
I know, I think it's engineering. It's like solving a big problem, troubleshooting. But I think the little problems are all mostly solved, right?
Yeah, then you should just shut down those departments and focus on real problems. But I don't think anybody wants to shut down mechanical engineering labs.
That's not going to happen.
I know.
And the thing is that those departments produce a lot of traditional engineers that want maybe not in research, but the bachelor's and master's students needed to keep things running, right? So as a researcher, you're always thinking about what am I going to do that's new and what are the problems now? But there's just getting to be more and more of a tension between who you need to educate to do standard engineering jobs and then what you can do as a researcher. Those are getting farther and farther apart.
Right.
Hey, so I just realized that I don't think Christina is coming because she's marked out like 3 weeks out of the respect meeting. So I'm guessing that she's on vacation or back home or something. So let's not wait for her. Um, but Wei, this is a great chance to get to know your work a little better. And I've been really super curious about, well, let's start with you because I don't know how you see your work. And I think we've said we're kind of working alongside NEMS, but we haven't had a lot of communication about it. And I think we could have more.
Mhm. Mhm. I think my current progress is actually pretty slow. It's like I spent the whole month actually trying to setting up the model. I'm still doing that. Part of it is like I work remotely, so I have to set up like the station to run that model.
Oh, uh-huh.
So I'm still doing that.
Uh-huh.
But currently, most of my efforts actually more focused on find the data, like the cost data for heat pumps, so I can update the model. That's what's going on my side. Yeah.
So we should talk, like, I think we're doing some similar things, but you're doing it in the context of NEMS.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
on national level.
yeah, so we should talk. Um, I think NEMS might have some richer data, but Zara, I know I don't know how much you're looking at costs. Um, can I ask, first of all, wait, Wei, I'm really good at talking and not letting other people talk, so I'm going to stop. Say more about what you're doing. I'll ask more questions later.
Mm. So basically, what the project is about to like make the NEMS model, the modeling of heat pump adoption more realistic. And we want to focus on some key parameters in especially like in the coming months, like what's update the cost data. That's probably one effort I want to do. Another thing like to update the bias data, like people probably they even like the heat pumps are economic, like people still prefer using natural gas. So you need a bias parameter there. And we want to make the bias.
What's that bias? Do you just choose a parameter or how does that work? It's like if you have natural gas now.
They basically calibrate based on like current market share. And it's all fixed from today to 2050. So we want to make that dynamic, and that's a goal, and that's need to like rewrite the whole model. That's one.
What's the bias parameter that you're talking about? How does it enter the adoption?
Basically like the enter the adoption, like you use the S curve, the S curve equation, and you add a parameter there, and it's actually usually pretty close to one. and they collaborate the parameter based on current market share. That's all they did. Just one number. That's one number in the equation.
Okay, and so
Mm.
do you mind me asking this stuff? It's good to talk about.
Mm.
And I don't
Mhm.
want you to feel like I'm critiquing you. I just don't understand it yet. But I have done dynamic modeling where I duals doing that dynamic side. And I have used S curves to do like some of my prior work was on vehicle transitions around the world, right?
Yeah.
So like how quickly would it go? And then if the vehicle lifetimes were longer in poorer countries, then how long would the fleet take to turn over? So it's pretty similar concept, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
So I'm familiar with a lot of the stuff, but it's of course a new field, and then it's more limited, but also we have access to more data because it's in the United States.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when you use the S curve, by S curve, is that a penetration curve?
Yeah, it's a penetration curve.
Okay. And so
Let me.
the slope, oh, I'm sorry, I can enable sharing.
Mm.
And anyone should feel free to jump in and ask questions too. Let me know if you're still blocked.
Mm-hmm. So it's basically the equation here, the very classic, the
Yeah.
logic twice model. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
very classic model. Basically, you have a bias factor here, and that's the cost data. And
Okay. So I see the bias is a
yeah,
constant, but you're assuming that bias is going to stay constant.
that's a current assumption on NEMS model.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And switch eligibility that's the first stage of the decision. That's like the
Yeah, the trigger. Yeah.
mm-hmm,
What
mm-hmm.
what I found is actually what really matters is the switch eligibility. That factor is really
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
important, but the bias factor is not really important. It's only have a very marginal effect on the adoption.
Okay.
But we are trying to make it more realistic to say what's
Okay.
yeah.
Right. So then, okay, so you are basing it on life cycle cost and
Yeah.
switching cost. And switching cost is okay, so Zara, you've
Mm.
got some, or we're also kind of into costs too, right?
Yeah.
Um, so how are you getting energy consumption? Because this is something Zara's been fighting with.
Uh, like the energy consumption of uh, like heat pump, or you mean?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
So it's like that's the second step. Like here is only the heat pump adoption, and after you calculate heat pump adoption, NEMS model will like calculate what's the electricity use, what's the natural gas, and use the emission factors to calculate. The fuel efficiency factors to calculate that.
Yeah. So,
Mm.
but you need the life cycle cost for your adoption.
Uh, that's uh, uh, yeah, that's right. So basically, like we need to give some input like installation cost, and NEMS model will calculate the life cycle cost based on your efficiency assumption, and you have
Okay.
yeah, that's the like the linked model.
Okay. So it's assuming some kind of efficiency or coefficient.
That's also some data I'm looking for. but the idea is like they assume like the household will choose the efficiency and also the cost based on the cost.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's an assumption. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So Ray Doolin, Zara, do you want to comment on this? Because this is so I think we probably have data that we can share, or at least we can compare, right?
Yes, I believe so. If it's NEMS calculate or have estimation on energy consumption, we can compare it with what we do with building object rather than only use restock outputs.
Hmm. Yeah, but Shangwei, you may or may not know how NEMS then calculates the energy consumption.
It's basically based on the efficiency assumptions you have. So
Yeah, but
that
okay, but
yeah.
you need a demand, like, or how much energy is needed
Mm-hmm.
for heating, and then you can
Mm-hmm.
apply the efficiency.
Oh, that part, yeah. Oh, it's like they will calculate like your household demand like based on this like HDD, your location and your price, and they add all the demand, not only building sector but also all the
Right.
sector together to use the demand supply equilibrium to calculate all the cost, and then use the cost data to let the household choose which heater you want to use. So it's a like a reverse and back process, and finally they calculate the final price of the heat pump. That's it. That's a
Yeah, it'd be good to
yeah.
see if they have you probably have delved into this model, but it would be good maybe for you sometime to share a flow chart of how that goes. Because are they
Mhm.
calculating demand for each house and then summing it for the region?
Each region, they only have like 9 regions. I think I have the map, the 9 regions here,
Mm.
and for each region, basically they only have like 3 buildings, like a single, 3 representative buildings, like a single house, a multi-family house, and probably a commercial building or something like that. So
Oh,
the
okay.
uh,
Okay, so they have
it,
like sample buildings.
yes, the sample buildings.
And then they're somehow probably designed so that you get the approximately the current right energy consumption for that region.
It's actually not like the sample building. It's more like the one single sector. Like single family is one single sector, and you only model like the sector in that region.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay, but then how do you differentiate it? So within that sector, some people have heat pumps and some people say have electric furnace.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Um, and so you must have a technology division or something, or
Uh, like you have a baseline, like how many people are using natural gas heaters, how many people are using heat pumps,
mm,
and in the next year, when some like equipment get retired, get failed, you basically replace them with another one. That's why when the S curve works. Like you need to choose a new heat,
mm-hmm,
like a heat pump or other types.
mm-hmm,
So that
mm-hmm.
so that's like just like model one single sector year by year,
Yeah, yeah.
and with linked to like the macro model, what they call macro energy model, the whole demand supply equilibrium.
Yeah, and I think
Yeah,
that's what NEMS does
yeah,
that the agent-based model cannot do, right? They don't price
yeah,
things
yeah,
based on
yeah,
supply
yeah,
and
yeah,
demand. So that's where the macroeconomic
yeah,
model has a
yeah,
strength.
yeah.
Um,
But usually that doesn't matter. The price only change marginally
mhm.
when you apply to the macro model.
Yeah, so that's why I'm never really worried. If you have a shock, then it's going to change, or if you impose like a increase in carbon price or something, then it'll change over decades. Um, but I haven't worried too much about the influence on the micro scale.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So, so you're fighting with all that stupid computer architecture stuff, right? Maybe like the model doesn't run and that's just it's a burden. Does it
No,
run in-house on DOE computers or where does it?
no, the NEMS model, I think it's okay. It's complicated, but it's okay.
Mm.
It's not, it's ugly, but it's okay. The thing I'm fighting for is for the yield computing resources because I'm using
Ah.
a real computer to calculate that. So I need to set up the station remotely. So I need to collaborate with IT people. That's going to be really slow.
So you have a terminal that runs on the
Basically
supercomputer
on
or
the yield
something.
department. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Uh,
That's a pain. Um, so I think we're kind of rowing in the same direction, right? Like Rydul's going to have an agent-based result for Colorado,
mm,
and that's not right. So we have to go from little to big.
yeah.
Um, so it's not the same. You don't have a Colorado specific one, but we could probably look at transition rates, right? Or market penetration in the two
Mm-hmm.
models, even if we don't compare total.
Mm, mm-hmm. I cannot do at state level. The results only do at regional level. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yeah, I think we just have to
uh,
compare your mountain with
yeah,
with
yeah,
market, like fractional market penetration.
yeah.
Shanghai, I have some question. Can you help me with
Mm-hmm.
the slide number 3?
Sorry.
Slide number 3, the
No.
factors influencing, yeah,
Oh. Mm,
the first 4 factors. Like I
mm-hmm.
understand existing equipment age that you are
Mm-hmm.
getting assumed
Mm-hmm.
retirement curve that you showed in the previous slide,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and then the household or get into the decision making process. What do you mean by status quo biases?
That's a bias. Sorry, that's a switch eligibility. Like only 20% of the families will choose to will consider choosing a new heater. That's
So
called that's a NEMS word. NEMS called switch eligibility, which means like 80% of the single families will choose the heater they already have. If they have natural gas heater, they will choose a natural gas heater. Even the heat pumps get cheaper. That's called the statistical bias.
mm, mm, okay. And what is the consumer preference parameter? Like,
That's basically a bias
That's
here.
the
The bias.
bias.
Yeah, that's a bias.
And your bias does not change over time, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
okay, thank you.
And then, so one thing that we're working on that your thoughts would really be welcome about is there's like a really large number of heat pumps available, right? Of different
Exactly.
efficiencies.
Yeah.
Like,
Let me.
how many did you tabulate?
I
Like
don't
100 or
remember, but it's over 15 at least.
Oh, yeah. So just
Heat
varying
pumps.
efficiencies, right? But some of them are not available anymore. But so when you're seeking characteristics of the heat pump, both efficiency and cost, what is your set of options?
I actually I don't know whether people know the Unreal database. That's a database I use. And also I can share people one thing here. Wait, can you see my screen?
Mm.
There's a database called the that's basically developed by sorry, Unreal. And they have the database, and you can choose like if you want to do like a heat pump, you want to like install a heat pump, remove your heat pump, or replace a heat pump. They have like all the kind of lifetime assumptions, their efficiency, and their cost range. That's one data set I'm using.
I think this is the list you're also using, right, Zara? But so the question though is not let's see. The question is when you have that choice function, we don't have data for every single one of the heat pumps. Right? So we have chosen a limited number of heat pumps. Like right now, 2. One is the lowest efficiency, but acceptable, like still within the state, still they haven't been thrown out. And then one is a high efficiency one, because we don't think we're going to have parameters beyond that. So what are you doing about that choice set?
I guess in NEMS model, they actually use the same thing. Like I think I have this one. This is like a data set developed by EIA. I'm still reading that one. This is the data set they developed for the inputs in the NEMS model. And if you download the report here, you can find I'm still just working on this one. And you can see that they have all the cost assumptions from today to the future. And if we go residential heat pumps, and that's all the assumptions in NEMS model. This is reporting 2023, so they haven't updated that. But sometimes the cost data is, I think it's a little bit weird if you compare with the Unreal database. But anyway, that's all the probably only like 4 different heat pumps, representative heat pumps. That's all.
Yeah. So I don't mean that we lack data on the cost. I just don't think the discrete choice model would be able to choose among a large number of heat pumps, right? Especially if it's based only on least cost, or that there's cost in that parameter. I don't think you have calibration parameters for every single one of the heat pumps. Do you? Or it'll be very impossible to calibrate it is among a large number of choices.
Oh, like calibrate the bias factor, like even
all the factors. Yeah. So I think
that's right.
now yeah, go ahead.
I expect the impact will be marginal if you
because the operating cost varies very, very little among different heat pumps. Is that right, Zara?
Yes, at least 2 options that we are looking at, the lowest efficiency and the highest.
Yeah, but it's just a couple $100 a year, right?
Yes,
or something.
exactly.
And so it's the model, if it's based on least cost or least life cycle cost, is probably going to end up always choosing just one heat pump. Does that make sense? Yeah, so I'm curious how this is being done in other models.
Yeah. I feel the impact on the final consumption or final emissions will be marginal. That's my spec. But what we can try is like we can add more input into the data and to see whether the results will be sensitive to that, more representative heat pumps. Yes, but I suspect it will be more. But I can try. That's easy. That's really easy to.
Yeah, no,
find.
I think you're absolutely right, because the energy consumption differences are small, so the operating cost differences are small. But because the energy consumption differences are small, then also the emission differences will be small, right? So I think you're right. The big question is the rate of electrification.
The emission concentration. The reason like for NEMS model is not doing like anything for the power sector. I'm actually have another project also working on heat pumps, but try to understand like what's the peak load look like. If you think about you use a more efficient heat pump and during the peak load, that's probably will be pretty important, but
I
that's something NEMS
agree.
cannot do. Yeah, but that's
Mhm.
what I'm doing, use some other electricity model. But I still don't know the results because actually some people do that, show it's very important. Some people show it's not. But and anyway, that's something uh, I don't. But in NEMS model, it's like people pay their operating cost based on a fixed rate, like per kilowatt hour. So that's right. Yeah, yeah.
Well, yes, and time of day pricing is is a big wild card in this, in my opinion,
Yeah.
right? Because Zara's got the whatever database, the EIA, right, Zara? That probably you're also using
You are asking about the cost
the
list?
cost, the electricity
Yes.
cost.
I
But
use the process data, like monthly costs reports, EA,
Um,
the Energy Information Administration published.
right, but the time of day pricing, which is getting to what the other project you're working on, Shangwei, I think is a
yeah,
much bigger issue than any monthly variation.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah.
So I'd actually love it if you could talk to the respect group about that
And
sometime.
if I have some results, I'm still like
Yeah.
conceptualizing that project. Yeah.
Yeah, and I know people are working on overall demand with electrification, including then mobile sources. Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
but and I know people must be working on reliability, but that's a big concern of mine too.
Uh, yes, but for this project, we focus on New England region.
Mm,
It's because like so many states here like announced like they probably will electrify all the buildings like by
mm,
35 or something like that.
mhm,
That's why we focus on one region. And
mhm.
also it's only focused on the grid impact. So I think the most important thing is actually the distribution part. Like for each house, you have distribution. You have to upgrade your transformer or something like that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that data we don't have. I know the same group I'm collaborate with will have some distribution data on Canada, but it's only a small city. That's I think
Mm,
distribution will be really matters, but we don't really have data on that. That's something like you need the local scale really matters. Yeah.
mhm, mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's so how no, I'm not going to get off track. I want to ask about reliability and how you're handling it, but I don't think we should go down that because that could be it's something else. It's really important.
Mm,
And I think it plays a role in adoption decisions too, right? If you're confident. So I'll stay on the adoption of heat pumps. If you're confident that
mm,
electricity will be there, then you're more likely to adopt a heat pump.
mm,
That's a
mm.
hypothesis with no data, but it's kind of obvious, right?
They have the data like for electric vehicles. I think they have some studies on that part. Yeah, but not heat pump.
But electric vehicles, you can at least go somewhere else to charge them. Heat
That's right.
pump, if your home
That's
loses
right.
electricity, you don't
Mm. Like,
you don't have
yeah,
you can't go take your heat pump out and heat your home.
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Although maybe you can run it from the battery of your electric vehicle once we get that set up. I don't know. Um, um, anyway, so I think overall, Shangwei, the first thing for us to do is Like you just keep doing what you're doing and get a result. But the electrification, you're running NEMS, you're running NEMS for the whole country, right?
Yeah.
Or only, yeah. So then we could compare penetration rates with your mountain region. So I think overall comparison, we can speculate a lot, but there's nothing like running the model and then doing a comparison, because I think we're going to find some surprises, even if it all seems obvious.
Yeah, definitely.
So Kartik, is your data feeding Shangwei's model or the NEMS model at all in terms of heterogeneity?
No, we're not. Yeah, we're not really interacting. Yeah. Maybe the underlying data is maybe the same because I'm sourcing everything from the Joule paper, which uses the NREL data anyway. So I'm guessing numbers should be eventually comparable, but yeah, nothing directly.
So, and the NREL data is sort of calibrated to consumption.
What do you mean by calibrated to consumption?
I thought that one of the things Restock had done with their database and then their load profiles that produce total energy was do some amount of calibration to local consumption of a group of homes. I don't think that's been done everywhere, but I think they've probably worked much harder on that kind of calibration than we will be able to. That's one reason that I want to use the NREL data, because it has so much behind it.
Well, I don't know about overall consumption, but for their heat pump costs and all of that, they actually use, there's a Berkeley technical report. I don't know if you've seen, you can put in the chat.
No, I haven't gone all the way back to that.
Yeah, because they reference that report a lot in their paper. So what they do is they just fit a bunch of regressions for different efficiencies and different tonnages and just use that as pretty much like a blanket thing everywhere. So that's what I've been using as well.
Okay.
Model.
Okay.
I mean, the regression equations are in the Joule paper, but this is the underlying source.
Okay.
Which Joule paper are you referring to?
The Wilson paper. Let me put that in chat as well.
The heat pump one, right? The new,
Yeah,
the like just published.
Correct.
I see.
So I think a good place for us all to start is, what do we expect to be the same? We can come up with a lot of ideas about why our results should be different from each other, but what do we expect to be the same, and are they the same? And so Shangwei, we're not going to have overall consumption numbers, because we're only focusing on the heating portion, because that contributes to the life cycle cost of this equipment. And so that's not a thing we can compare with NEMS. But what can we compare?
For NEMS model, it can produce like only heating demand, heating emissions. That's cool. That's something we can compare.
So we could compare overall heating.
Yeah.
How is NEMS the residential sector, is it divided into single and multifamily separately, or how does that work?
Yes, but basically it's single family, right? multifamily is only a small portion of the total housing stock, right? So basically it's still single family. But it definitely has single family and multifamily, I think, yeah. But the basic idea is they assume like all the multifamily will choose the heater what they previously had. So they will never switch.
So they
That's
don't
their
have
assumption.
any switching in multifamily.
I think so. I think that's a current assumption, but you can definitely change the assumption.
Okay.
That's doable.
But that's what it's currently doing. So
Yeah.
does it break out separately the single family consumption?
Yeah. Yeah. They have the details, like the detailed data. So like how many, like in each region, you have how many household use heat pump, like what's the heat pump penetration rate in each year. That's all available.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay. And so that is something that I'd like to see, that I think we could compare with the penetration rates in each year. Now you're going to be using those for calibration in the past, right?
Yes.
That's where you get
Actually,
bias.
yeah, that's right. That's one. That's how they get the bias factor.
Yeah, that's the problem I always have, is we use the past data for calibration, and then people would like you to show an independent projection that is then compared with data, but you've used all the data for calibration, right?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's always okay. Yeah.
Well, and then I think it would be nice to look at some of Christina's work when we can get her again, because she was showing differences in MSAs, right, that might shed some light on that bias factor. Now your NEMS is not able to model the MSAs especially, but
Mm, mm.
I don't even remember which ones she had. And then there's always a boundary question when you do the MSAs, right? Like you end up including some houses that don't belong there. But I wonder if Christina's data could be, the interregional data could be used for some kind of calibration as well.
Mm. By the end of the day, it's just a parameter. So as long as you can try a parameter, you can try what's the impact on you when you choose different parameters on the final result. That's
Yeah.
yeah.
So how do you do this? Do you actually have a regression to extract that bias parameter, or do you just tweak it and run it until it matches?
Oh, it's just like you put input in Excel, and they will read all the inputs in one Excel. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I think it would be good to, like, we're too early to do anything but compare totals and penetration rates. And well, when we get things running, right? Right, Dual, Zara? How could we help you, Shangwei? Is there anything that you need?
I think at this moment I need to focus on the technical issues here. That's
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's something I need to figure out. After that, I can start run the model, and I think I definitely will encounter more questions when I start really run the model.
Yeah, but don't be afraid to ask to
Mm-hmm.
use one of the modeler meetings to discuss an issue that you have
Mm-hmm.
that maybe other people could contribute to.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, sorry, we took I because we rarely see Shangwei, I took all the time to grill him. Do the other three of you want to say a little bit about where you're at?
Sure,
Yeah,
okay, right, go ahead.
yeah. So I have like a shorter update. So Karthik has been mostly doing works with Temi on developing the SS Fusion data. and Tammy has worked on molding that data to be more suitable for ABM to read. So I have been reading into that, trying to develop ways how the ABM will feed on those data and integrate heterogeneity at Colorado level. And I met with Tammy yesterday, and for the time being, we decided, okay, these are some of the ways we will be introducing or connecting those heterogeneity data. Uh, and Zara, and once Zara has this operational cost, I'll integrate that to the ABM model. So that's pretty much I am at currently. I think the model is getting there where it can produce some preliminary results and see how the market penetration looks like for different alternative. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm mostly focused on just writing up my well-being work. So pretty much head down, just reading and writing around that. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
Is there anything you need, Kartik, that would be helpful?
Well, definitely, well, writing criticism at some point. So hopefully I'm going to get to that stage very soon and I can share the draft with the rest of the team and then get some feedback on that.
I think the vocabulary, right, that we've been working on,
Right.
everything that everybody does is helpful in highlighting the tensions that we have.
Mm-hmm.
And Shangwei, I don't know how much you've had an opportunity to get involved with the well-being work. I should tell you, because you can't attend a lot of the meetings, we record a lot of them and they're on a YouTube channel. And then we
Really, I actually don't. It didn't record it. Actually, I don't know.
yeah, we do. So,
Mhm.
and of course, you don't have the time to go back and watch all of them. But for example, Kartik's presentation on his well-being work would be recorded. Um, I
Mhm.
can I can give you the channel, or you can go back to the call notes. I think you have access to
Mhm.
that Google Drive. And if you go through the call notes, there's links to the videos.
Mhm. 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 I
So if
understand.
you ever thought like, oh, somebody presented on this, but I didn't get to see it, you can just go look and then watch it at like 2 times the speed so you can be efficient, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, you want to say something about the
Yes. I am right now looking at the operating cost of set of a selected HVAC system and at the Colorado level and how it might fit in ABM that Rydul is working. And at the side, I really relate to you, Shangbei, about that technical hassle for running the models on different systems. I have some issue with time complexity of my algorithm.
Yeah, I think that the idea is that Rydul's agent-based model is currently having one agent, one household. Now we want to make that more efficient in the future, but we're not there right now. And so each household has to know its operating cost. And that means a lot of calls to the building object. Building object being the thing that samples from res stock and says for your house age and size, this is likely your energy use and this is what it would be with an alternative. And so it goes through all the stuff that probably NEMS does, where it's specific to its own weather and so on, and just gets the heating energy. So you can look at alternatives. So we produce the operating cost that's in the model. And the reason we're doing that instead of taking it from res stock is I just wanted a little more control over what some of the alternatives would be instead of taking just what NREL prescribed. But that the computations are not complicated, but when you do a year of weather data, if you're not clever, then it can take a lot of time.
And Tammy and Zara, I have a question on that. So if you have new numbers that are slightly different from the numbers reported in the database, do you still have to calibrate to the stage total or something to make sure that the overall aggregates are, not too far off, or do you think that's maybe not necessary?
Yes, actually, we are trying to calibrate that our data is not too far from RESTEC, but there is some discrepancy in the RESTEC data that doesn't match the actual assumptions they provided in the documentation, and I'm exploring what's underlying reason for now.
But you could also just maybe ignore RESTOC and just look at utility data or just EIA state level data and then calibrate to that instead.
We can. So as you probably know, Kartik, the RESTOC data, each one comes with its own energy consumption already. And so that's what we're calibrating against, because we figure RESTOC has already been done at that high level. So what I think is that at this time, we're not producing emissions, right? We're just looking at penetration rates. Now, if we ever did want to produce emissions, then we would have to do that calibration. I feel like it's not worth it because the RESTOC and the DOE Energy Plus calculation has so many other facets of energy use, not just heating.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So they have every little thing, right? They have the use of your fans, they have the use of your cooking. And I think they have those things in part to feed studies like the other one Shang Wei is working on, time of day demand. And so for us to do total emissions, I think we'd be spending a lot of time to do something that we're not as good at. We're really just want to look at how the influence of some of the heterogeneous factors affect the penetration rate. And then we might feed them back to somebody like Shang Wei and say, okay, this one was big. You need to include this.
Right.
And also, I think
Go ahead.
I think the red stock model actually use energy plus use the building models to be I'm running energy plus and also do the representative model. So if people want to know some building model simulation, I'm happy to discuss. So that's what I'm working on.
Yeah, and we're not going to do the building simulation, right?
But if people want to
DOE's
know
doing
more,
it.
I can.
And not only are they doing it, but they're continually advancing it.
We're
not going to try to duplicate that. However, the calculation that Zara is doing for operating cost is actually what an occupant would see, because this is what the contractor would do, just straight out like UA delta T. So a contractor would give them that operating cost, whether or not it's going to be the actual operating cost. That's what they would base their decision on. So I'm kind of fine, like if it doesn't calibrate up, because we're really after the decision rather than anything else.
That's right.
So we keep feeling like we're close to producing a model. And Zhongwei, you probably keep feeling like you're close. So eventually we will be close or get there. Kartik, do you have a self-imposed deadline for your well-being work?
Well, before Narasimha comes back, that's my
Oh my God, that's quick. That's like now, right? Here next week he's coming back, or when is it?
Yeah, I think next week sometime. So before he asks me again of what's going on, I need to finish it. So.
What is causing you trouble?
It's just the extent of like I think robustness I need to go through, because a lot of the assumptions are arbitrary, as in, for example, if I look at expenditure of energy, there's no real guidelines. Some people say, oh, 18%, some people say 6% as to where the benefits should start. So
Benefits of,
whatever, like LIHEAP program or any other local facility.
oh,
So if I want
okay.
to compare anything to what's out there, and energy is probably the best case where something is already operative, but food, for example, it's nothing there. Similarly for mobility, I think transport is the worst because it's zero guidance on what to do with that.
Mm-hmm.
So I need to test a bunch of things to show how things change. Or if you have a 15%, you have a 30% spending cutoff, how would those affect the results? So I think a
Right.
lot of work just goes into testing all these alternate scenarios.
Mm,
So
that's interesting. Yeah.
similarly with dissatisfaction too, right? So there's so many ways you can characterize insecurity, dissatisfaction, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
So there again, food is straightforward because it already exists. But the other cases, I have to go through a bunch of different cases and say, okay, the conclusions still remain valid.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the part I'm going through right now to make sure everything in the SI is there. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, that is, we leaned a lot on your conclusion, Kartik, that energy has, or energy creates the biggest draw on, or deprivation of well-being. But then secretly I'm thinking, okay, that depends where you draw the line on deprivation, right?
Right.
So you can draw it, so you can make your thing look bigger by by drawing a line in a different place.
Yeah, that's exactly where I'm stuck
Yeah.
at. So
Yeah.
I mean, in the energy case, I'm still okay because that's how the EIA defines it. So you blame the EIA for if they
It's
define it
nice
to
to have
go.
people to blame.
So if they decide to define it very liberally, then it's
Yeah.
not our fault. Like, this is what they're doing. So what do you want me to do?
Right. We can't redefine the accepted metric.
Right. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking about. So yeah, if you define it differently, then yeah, the story is going to be different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think just being honest about that in the
Right.
paper.
Yeah.
If a reviewer wants to be grumpy, they're going to be grumpy anyway.
That's true.
Right. So the person who doesn't recognize the nuance, you're never going to be able to satisfy, because there is no interpretation like you're doing without nuance.
Yeah, I think that's the thing I struggle with when people ask me for what the results are or what does this mean. I'm like, I cannot tell you what it means because there's like so much nuance and so many different scenarios. I can just present the result to you or the data to you, and you can make your own interpretation of what that means.
Well, one thing I think, yeah, we're near time right now, so I want us to go. And I will not be able to do this meeting next week because it conflicts with the Healthy Housing Coalition meeting that's once a month. But I would like to take another time I think there's a bunch of stuff to talk about among data heavy people. Like, is there a way right now to begin using the well-being framing in some of the energy transition work? Right. And I think people are very hesitant to put things together or to do a synthesis because of all the assumptions that have been made. But this is exactly why we have people on the same project, because the best way to put things together is with the people who have made all the assumptions, so they can tell you when you're stepping in a big hole.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Yeah.
We can all step in the hole together or hold hands and leap off the cliff. Okay. Thanks for joining, everyone. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.